Welcome back to another episode of Hot Air with me, Joshua Robert. And today we are switching gears, and I'm very excited to share this episode with you because I was editing it this week and I had recorded this over 2.5 months ago. And during the editing process, I felt like I was relearning all of the information that was shared with me on this episode. I kind of forgot that it was my podcast and that I was listening to myself and my guests speak, and I was just absorbing all of the wonderful information. So on this episode, I am joined by my friend Stephania. She is a health and wellness guru, and she thought it would be a wonderful idea to talk about how taking care of yourself physically will help you flex your confidence muscles. And I just love that. So whether you are starting out a new fitness journey, whether it's time for you to switch it up, she is going to bless us with her knowledge so that we can start living our best lives inside and out. And now, time for a little heads up. There were dogs involved in the making of this episode. None of them were hurt in the making of this episode. However, they were wagging their tails, hitting the microphones, jumping up and down off the sofa, enjoying their treats, and it was a loud, glorious time. It's really not that bad, but if you hear some weird noises, it's not Stephania and I like eating or munching on stuff. It's dogs, okay? But are you even making a podcast if you're not having some sound issues? No. You're not. So let's get this baby started and start flexing our confidence muscles. Okay, well, we are here with Stephania, my girl, the fitness guru. And I'm glad we are doing this because all the episodes leading up to now that I have pre-recorded are a lot about dating and therapy and haven't really hit on the health and wellness side of things just yet. However, that all kind of ties in together, which is kind of the whole concept of Hot Air. It is learning new things and being better and also bitching about terrible men, which we're not going to do today. Because you are recently engaged.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I always forget. Every time I see you, like I kind of forget
It's
and then
crazy.
I remember. It's just so exciting. You got engaged in Italy, right?
I did, yes, in Italy in September. So first of all, thank you so much for having me on Hot Air.
Oh, it's no big deal.
How exciting. And absolutely, I completely agree that I think fitness, wellness, confidence ties completely into relationships. So even if this isn't maybe quite the norm of what you've been chatting about on this podcast, I think anybody listening can take this into your relationship, whether you have one or you don't yet, you're looking for one, you want to elevate yourself. Everything we talk about today is going to go hand in hand with becoming that best version of yourself to attract that type of relationship that you want. And now that I'm engaged, I'm totally an expert.
You're fine. You're just fine.
But yeah, no, it was a very exciting year for me. We got engaged in Italy in September on a little vacation that we were taking. It was actually Sam's first time to Europe. So that was really exciting for him and very memorable for sure. And yeah, so we're just starting to plan some of the wedding festivities.
The rest of your lives
That's right.
together. So maybe you're going to share things with us today so that we all can feel the best about ourselves.
Definitely.
And we can get engaged in Italy too.
Absolutely. I'm here to help everyone manifest.
Yes, let's fucking do it. So why don't we start with a little bit of your background, because you have a very extensive background, so many qualifications, certifications, all those good things. So why don't you start in the day you were born?
Okay, sounds great. So in 93, no, I'm just kidding. My fitness journey professionally began in college. I got certified while I was getting my business degree, and shout out to Arizona State. They were so supportive. They paid for my certification. They trained me up, and their whole thing is they try to get as many student workers as possible. And then this is also very just forward thinking of the university, because they also helped provide students with careers during school and then also helped prep kids getting into their field before they even graduate. And so back in 2013 is when I first got certified and started my teaching journey with teaching fitness, group fitness classes. And so I racked up a bunch of certifications during that time because the school would literally pay for anything I asked them to.
That's good.
So if I wanted a certification or I wanted to study a new tool or whatever it was, they were so supportive. So I'm very, very lucky in that sense. But my journey as a fitness professional started with the group classes, as I said, and it has gone up to mainly one-on-one training right now, but I've also done online training with clients and dabbled with fitness filming, including in Italy. I guess I'm just really drawn to Italy.
Yeah.
But
Aren't you Italian?
I am Italian. Yeah, I'm American Italian, but
sense.
yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's I've had a vast array of experience within the fitness world, but currently it looks a lot of one-on-one clients, which I love.
Yeah. And you have the Sweat Obsessed.
And the Sweat Obsessed is my online program. Yes.
So you are more than qualified. And a lot of people don't realize, like, when we talk to people like you, that this is what they do for a living, you know?
Yes.
I mean, I also personal train at the same place you do, but I have other gigs.
Right.
But, like, you're extremely successul. You've been doing this for such a long time.
Yes.
And you have people that come to you because they want to better themselves. So you're a great fit for this episode.
Oh, thank you.
Love it.
And everyone that I do work with, you know, they have a problem, right? And I'm trying to help them put the puzzle back together to help solve it.
Yeah.
And so everyone's super unique, and I'm going to be excited to drop some examples of my clients here today that hopefully the audience can relate to. But my youngest client is 11, my oldest is 92.
Oh wow. Yeah. Yeah. There's quite the spectrum of ages.
That's right.
Where we train, but we love our oldies.
Absolutely.
I also have a lot of problems, but I don't think you can help me with those.
I think I cannot.
No, we won't go there. So you kind of came up actually with the concept for this episode, because I asked you, like, what would you want to talk about? How do you think this can translate? And you brought up, you know, feeling confident about yourself. I liked, what did you say? You said, like, your muscle strength, like, flexes your confidence strength.
Yes.
So why don't you elaborate?
Yeah.
I was gonna say elevate on that. Why don't you elaborate on that?
I'll elevate and elaborate.
Love it.
Absolutely, Josh. So after seeing so many people for so many years, coached through so many different workouts, what I've come to realize is I think everyone gets drawn into fitness because they want to look like someone else or something else, or like their old self. They're after a look. They've got a vacation coming up, right? But along the journey, they find out that what is more fulfilling and more purposeful is the way that they feel.
Mm-hmm.
And that feeling can come from confidence of, you know, being able to conquer a lift, whether it's like getting your first pull up or, you know, getting your squat form perfected and how good it feels when you flex your muscles, you actually achieve something. And so much of our world today is a quick click of a button, a swipe of a face, you know, on these dating profiles, right? So it's very instant gratification. It's very just like quick. Well, you can't fake quick fitness results. You just cannot fake strength. It's actually, I've thought a lot about this. One of the only things in the world that cannot be inherited, cannot be bought, cannot be faked is like your muscle, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a huge amount of extreme pride that can come from achieving things like putting on muscle, or maybe, you know, if you have extra weight to lose, it's losing that fat tissue and gaining the muscle. You gain so much of a sense of achievement by being able to prove yourself in the gym.
Right.
And I think that's what really keeps people addicted and coming back. It then turns into, I feel so good, I couldn't live without this, rather than I want abs and to look good in my bikini.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it turns into something so much deeper.
Right. So when somebody wants to start their fitness journey, that's like the hardest part, right?
Yes.
Especially if they've never been extremely active, or like, you know, they might yo-yo and come and go and not really commit. And so it's like, you know, you and I are very active, so it's easy for us to say, like, we just work out, we get stronger, we have goals, like, and it's not, sometimes it is summer body, but I think it's more of a lifelong goal. And so I think something that's really challenging for people to understand is that you just have to start, and you start small. So what are some smaller steps that you would suggest to someone if they came to you and they're like, I want to feel better about myself? Maybe they are going through a breakup, and like that's one of their healing processes to like move on in life. Like, how can they just begin without, you know, sometimes people dive in too hard, and then they just never return because it's so overwhelming. So like little small steps that you might suggest.
I think the very first thing that anybody should do is reframe their mindset around fitness. This is not a beginning and end of a goal. This is not a before and after photo. This is not 1 to 3 months. This is the rest of your life. Decide today that you are going to give back to your body and keep it in as close to the best shape that you can for the rest of your life. And this is something that I probably wouldn't have recognized as soon as I did, given that, I mean, I'm 31, so that's very young considering that I have clients who are 92, right? But I think in my earlier 20s, it was all about like really hard workouts, like what's going to make me sweat the most, what's going to make me the most sore, what's going to make me the thinnest, whatever it was, right? Well, now when I see my older clients, I'm like, my gosh, like I want to be able to raise my arms over my head the rest of my life.
Right.
Because I have clients who can't do that.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, I want to be able to have good posture and sit upright. I want my bones to be strong so that if I did fall, nothing's fracturing, right? So these are the little things that I've learned from having older clients. So reframing that mindset of like, oh, I'm just going to work out to get in shape to attract a partner, like that's so shortcoming. Realistically, we need to understand that fitness should be a part of our routine, just like brushing our teeth,
Right.
taking care of our hair and our skin, and showering. It's a hygienic thing. It's something that we need to do all the time to reset our bodies and our minds. So I think that's step one, is just get into the mindset that I'm doing this for life. Like I want to be in great shape my whole life. I always want to be able to go to Disneyland or the zoo and be able to handle 3 hours of walking, right?
Right.
Because even when we're young, like we think, oh, I'll never not be able to do that. And I'm telling you, I have plenty of clients who were those super active, strong people who then got carried away with their career or parenthood or whatever it might be. And now they're in a place where they're like, wow, I can't believe I lost that ability.
Yeah.
So I think that that's the number one thing, because like what you said, when people dive in too headstrong or too fast, too hard, you know, I see people doing things like 75 hard. Well, that entails something like a 2-hour workout every day,
Mhm.
which isn't even healthy.
Right.
Okay. That's too much working out in one day. And then to have no rest days. I mean, this is scientifically silly.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So I do think that when people are deciding that this is going to be a lifelong change for them, digestible small bites at a time,
Yeah.
right? Just like any goal, right? Like you're not, if you decided you wanted to switch your job or study something different, right? It's not like you change everything all at once. You make these incremental changes. So the next thing is start small. Okay. So maybe that looks like if you go from not working out at all, maybe you're going to start with 1 to 2 30-minute workouts a week, right? And then once you can master that for a month, maybe you can ramp it up to 45 minutes each. And then maybe you could introduce another day of working out. But I'd say whatever it is, you need to start at what your goal is and then find very small incremental steps to add in to your routine from there.
Totally.
So
I'm glad you brought up the 75 hard, because
Oh, yeah.
I've thought about doing that just
No.
because no, I mean, I haven't done it yet, so I don't think I will. But because I'm like, oh, I love the idea of like no alcohol,
Yeah.
you know, eating clean. And then, you know, I do work out for like maybe an hour and a half, like six
Sometimes,
days
yeah.
a week, sometimes 5 days a week. I didn't go today, but like I used to be so full in, like I would feel so guilty about taking a day off. Like
Okay.
last year when I was trying to get summer body ready,
Yeah.
I was like 7 days a week. And by the end of that, I had tendonitis in one arm, so I couldn't even do bicep curls
Right.
anymore. So like I wouldn't even have nice biceps for the beach because I couldn't do them
Yeah.
anymore.
Well, and then you're teetering on the line of a forever injury.
Yes, absolutely. Like that's what people forget, and which we tell to our clients and I tell to everyone else I know, is that if you're not doing it right and you're trying to go too heavy because you're trying to gain
Mhm.
muscle too fast, you injure yourself and then you're just never going to get to where you want to be anyway. Like
Yes.
how many clients do you probably know that have to take weeks off because they injure themselves, or they get sick because they're not taking care of themselves because everyone just goes like head first
Yes.
or not at all. But bouncing off of that 75 hard, there's also so many other things like that.
Yes.
And so much information. I go down like these YouTube rabbit holes, like trying to find the best exercises for biceps or
Yeah.
for traps or whatever it is. There's so much information.
Yes.
So like how can somebody get rid of all that fluff
Yeah.
and just find something that is gonna work for them long term, instead of bouncing around from fad to fad
Right.
and diet to diet
Right.
and workout to workout?
Right. So I think there's a couple staple things that I personally follow. And I think if I realized how like simplified these fitness routines could be from earlier on, I would have probably saved a lot of time. But it's also different when you're working in fitness, because you and I, like if we are teaching, we are getting some excess activity probably. So this hasn't always come from a place of experience, but this is what I recommend for my clients now. If you realistically want to see a change in your body, whether that's lose fat or whether that's gain muscle, you do need to dedicate about 3 days in the gym per week.
Mhm.
So that doesn't mean like it needs to be the same 3 days every week. Don't stress yourself out that it has to be Monday, Wednesday, Friday with no flexibility. Like if it ends up being Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, that's okay. If it ends up being Sunday, Tuesday, Saturday, that's fine as well, right? So I'd say, first of all, dedicate 3 solid days of lifting weights in the gym. Now, the next thing I will say is that whole 10K steps per day has really been debunked. So I know that's another part of the 75 hard. So 10K steps per day, that's great. I'm all for it if that's something that you want to do. But actually what the science has pointed to for longevity reasons is we only need 7,500 steps a day. So now everyone can take a little bit less time, right? Trying to rack up all those steps and just focus on about 7,500 steps a day. And I do think that is very vital and important. One thing that I will say is it doesn't need to look like you go for an hour-long, 2-hour-long walk every day. But if you can wake up in the morning, even go 1 block around where you live, everyone's living scenarios are going to be so different, whether you live in the snow or in a city or whatnot. But if you could break that up into little chunks, maybe like a little 10-minute walking break on your lunch break, that is a great way to try to get those 7,500 steps in. So those two combinations are really, really great. Now, this is one that I feel like people either love or hate, but it's cardio. So let's talk about cardio for just a quick second.
Let's talk about it.
I
hate cardio.
I know people hate it, or it's all they do, right? Like they take a spin class every day at 6 a.m. or they have not done cardio for years. It's kind of what I find. Keeping up your cardio is actually going to help with your muscle gains. It's also going to help with any stiffness that you might be feeling. It might flush out some of the soreness that you are feeling from your muscles. And I'd say that realistically, you want to get close to, or I should say up to 2 hours a week. But I personally only do an hour a week and I walk. So I will say like my cardio is like, I'm trying to keep my heart rate 120 to 140 beats per minute. And then I do that for about an hour weekly. So for me, I break that into 2 runs. And I think that's another thing that I've done this year that has been very fun way, achievable way to enjoy my workout routine and enjoy my fitness. And so not everybody here listening needs to start running. That's not what I'm saying by any means, but find something that you do like, whether that's bike riding, or maybe you like to get into a swimming pool and swim some laps. But for me, running has been so fun because I've really been able to track my progress, and it's made coming back to it the next time I do it really fun and interesting. Whereas when I was teaching too much and doing too much spin classes and HIIT classes and things like that, I really grew to resent cardio because it just made me so tired, so hungry. Like I never felt rested, right? So I think all I'm trying to say there is, get a little bit of cardio in, prioritize lifting weights, and get your steps in. And those are probably like 3, as simple as I can get with fitness. Those are my 3 staple things.
Yeah. So really what you're saying is it's a lot simpler than people imagine that it is if you're not diving in head first. And that's so true. And I've realized that a lot with my workouts, and a lot of the people that I've come into contact with where we teach, they just go like to so many classes. They're lifting all day long. It's like that's counterproductive to trying to get some results. So keeping it simple, obviously there's a lot of diet and nutrition in there. You can't go to McDonald's every day and do those 3 staples. You're not going to get some results. But keeping it really simple and tracking, like you said, tracking everything. I never used to track my workouts. And then I got an app that I can do my push day, my pull day, my leg day, tracking the weights, tracking my reps. I have a timer set in between those sets. So it keeps me really structured, which doesn't always work with everyone, but then you're not going to know how to progress, and you're going to plateau, and you're just going to be at that exact same level. And then one other thing you said is finding something that you like.
Yeah.
And people are motivated by so many different things. Some people like to pay us to train them. Some people like to go to the gym by themselves. Some people like class atmosphere. So if it's Orange Theory or F45, whatever it is, finding that thing that you think you can stick to, depending on your budget, because those things aren't always cheap. And hiring a trainer isn't cheap, but maybe it's like something online like you have, the Sweat Obsessed, or if there's like a bodybuilding one that's more geared towards men or whatever. But there's options, but definitely keeping it simple and focusing in on probably one program for the first however many months until you start to feel a little bit of results and a little bit better about yourself.
Absolutely. And one thing I'll add to that is when you were talking about some of the people we know who are doing so many classes, multiple studios, this, that, the other thing, right? Well, one thing that really stuck with me was I had a mentor tell me, random programming, random results, right? So if you're just going to random classes as fitness teachers, I hate to tell you, but there's been plenty of days where I just winged my class. I'm like, okay, I need to do like a move for legs, a move for core, a move for cardio. And I made it up on the fly. So not that that doesn't make a great workout still, but if you've got a specific goal, that class with whatever teacher is not going to be geared towards you specifically.
Totally.
So movement is always great. I don't want to ever discourage someone from finding movement in a way that they like. But yes, keeping things a little bit more specific and fine-tuned, such as measuring your breaks that you're taking. Now I set my timer and I wait 2 minutes between each lift because I know that that's actually the amount of rest your body needs before it can
And people hate resting too.
Right?
It's something I found too when I'm training clients. Like they're like, let's go. It's like, you have to wait so your muscles can recover so you can lift that heavy weight again.
Yes.
There's so much information out there, but it's so much simpler than people think. You don't have to do 10 sets of 12 reps of this and that. Like it's actually much smaller and a much shorter period of time. People will go to the gym for hours and it's like, you don't have to spend
you don't need to do that.
hours. If you start to integrate all of these changes into just a simpler, healthier lifestyle, it's going to become a long-term situation.
Absolutely.
And I want to talk some shit now.
Okay, let's go.
I want to talk some shit because social media drives me crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Although I love it. I post like a madman, but what drives me crazy is the expectations that I put on myself.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at these guys that are 6'1", who are like 205 pounds. I'm 5'7", and I'm 155 pounds. And I'm like, why don't I look like that? Like, I get in such a... Honestly, I can get really down sometimes when I'm I'll look at their workouts and I'm like, well, I'm going to try that workout. I'm going to try that for a few months. And I do it and I don't get those results. Obviously, a lot of it has to do with genetics. Yeah. I'm never going to grow. Yeah. I'm 36. I'm not going to sprout an extra fucking inch. Gaining weight has always been extremely difficult for me. But my point is that social media puts out these false expectations. Yeah. We can edit our pictures to like an insane degree. I can put a wild looking six pack on myself if I want to because I don't have one. And sometimes I want to, but that's just a lie. Yeah. And everybody knows I don't have a six pack. But what do you think about that? Like how can people overcome that and not feel so intimidated, not get so like hard on themselves because they're not looking like these people? Also, to build on top of that, a lot of what they look like on social media is not what they look like in person because I will see some of these influencers that we have here in San Diego in person. Yeah. And what they really have is a very low body fat percentage. Yeah. They're not jacked and super muscular. If I got my body fat percentage down to an extremely low percent and I went and did a photo shoot, I would look like I'm 6 feet tall and I'm jacked. Right. But until you see those people in person, you don't actually know what they're going to look like. Right. Please expand.
Okay, so I'm actually going to start with myself as an example. So I personally have been on the kind of flip side of that. When people have met me in person, but they saw me online first, they have said things like, wow, like, oh, you're really big. I mean, tall. Like, you're just taller than I imagined. And they don't mean it in any type of negative way. But that right there, I only say that to prove to everyone what you see online on a photo is not exactly how it appears in person. So even that statement of just me being like, people are so shocked when they meet me and I'm, like 5'9.5/5'10", that maybe doesn't come across in my photos. Right. So how many other things could be misconstrued, right? Maybe a face filter could make it look like I've got this plump, perfect porcelain skin, which may not necessarily be the case. Well, also realize that everything you're seeing is fake and filtered and perfect lighting and flexed Photoshop. And, there's so many different ways to make ourselves look enhanced in one photo that is only one little moment in time, or maybe it's even edited and not actually quite real. Yeah. So I want everyone to start off with a mindset reframe of, I am not comparing myself to that fitness person online. And what I will tell you too is that even though we are extremely in shape, like good health form, muscular people, we aren't even fitness models. No. And I have read articles written by fitness models who say that they really aren't that happy. Mm-hmm. They're on extreme diets at all time because it's not natural to keep such an insanely low body fat
and that's what
percentage.
People forget is that having a six pack like that is not natural. It's not really a healthy long-term thing.
No, it's really not. And I think especially for women, we see these beautiful skinny models, but the truth is a lot of them genetically are just like that. They don't even work out, right? Yeah. So all of that to say is I think that we need to understand when we're looking at fitness models or fitness people online, that might even be an old photo of when they were really lean for 1 month, you know? So just completely stop the compare and start to change the mindset to, I just want to look the best that I can be. Yeah. And that's why when you kind of create more of a goal around performance or being able to do something, you're going to feel so much better when you achieve that, because I'm telling you what, that like quote skinny model or fitting into that specific low body fat percentage body type that kind of people go after, it's fleeting, because you might get it for maybe a week. And then the moment you have a regular meal, you kind of lost it.
Yeah.
And that's going to do a lot worse for your mental health than finding a proactive goal to keep yourself going through some of these fitness challenges.
Speaking of comparing yourself, as I mentioned, I compare myself to everyone and everything all the time because I want to be tall, and that's not going to happen. But recently, something I've been doing is just acknowledging the progress that I've made and the small little steps that I've been taking. Like for me to get like big shoulders, I'm not a very broad person, if you haven't noticed, but I've been really focusing in on my shoulders lately. So I've noticed a little bit of a change. And although I'm not going to be one of those guys with those bolder shoulders, and I will probably always have a little bit of envy, probably also because I find a man with like a wide shoulder and like a big back, upper back, just really fucking hot.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I'm like, oh, I want to look like that because I find it hot. That's just not my structure. That's not the way my body is built. I can do it to an extent.
Yeah.
But point being is I've been just pointing out the small little bits of progress that I've made and acknowledging, like literally in the mirror yesterday, I looked and I was like, you look good. Like you are doing good.
Yeah.
You've made some good changes after I just ate a bag of chips.
Yeah.
But you've made some really good changes in the gym. I've been eating a little bit better. I've been drinking far less. And I've been doing something almost a year that I feel like is sustainable and I've been building on top of. So instead of us like just tearing ourselves down and being like, oh, I'm never going to be as skinny as her. You might never be as skinny as her. I'm never going to be as muscular as him. I probably never will be as muscular as the next guy next door. But there's things that will change.
Yes.
And noticing like, oh, there's a little less belly fat. Or, well, speaking of fat, I don't love a scale either. How do you feel about a scale?
No, it's, I think it's fine if you want to check in maybe twice a month, once a month, just to kind of check in. And that doesn't mean that those numbers are going to be super reflective of your health or your progress. But some people like measuring something. What I will say I think is much more beneficial to measure is actually your body proportions. So take a tape measure your waist, measure your hips, measure your thigh, measure your mid bicep. And if you keep tracking those, you're going to see, oh, am I putting on mass in the areas that I want to be? Am I slimming down the areas that I want to be?
Yeah.
That's going to be much better for you than following something on the scale. For example, right? If you quote wanted to fit a certain weight on the scale, well, we could chop off one of your legs.
Yeah.
Would you want that? Or
no.
If you weighed 300 pounds but looked exactly the way you wanted, right? Like we're talking the broad shoulders, the six pack. Would you complain that it said 300, or would you be stoked because you looked how you wanted?
Right.
So we need to kind of get rid of the scale comparison. I think it can be a little bit toxic for people, especially because I'll have people come back and be like, oh my God, I gained 2 pounds this week.
Oh,
I'm like, Martha, you just didn't take a poop yet.
Yeah,
like, calm
I tell
down.
everyone that. They're like, oh, I gained 5 pounds over Christmas. I'm like, you probably also just drank a shitload of water. You didn't poop yet today.
Yeah.
You probably had to pee, and you might have just eaten. Like, what?
And you know what is really interesting? So people, I think because we all live in bodies and we all like to work out, so we're all like doing these things, people feel like they're an expert. But when you actually follow the science, you would have to be inactive for 3 weeks to lose muscle, to begin to lose muscle. So you're not actually losing progress by even taking an entire week off, 2 weeks off, 3 weeks off. If you get into the gym on that 22nd day, you're fine.
Right.
Your body can sustain itself for that long, right? So I think also there's this false narrative of if I don't work out today, or if I miss this, or I miss this meal and I eat whatever the heck I want for one weekend, I'm going to be completely thrown off the rails. And that's just not how it goes.
Right.
Now, another thing I'd like to highlight is something you were kind of turning my wheels on, is that progress takes a lot longer than people want to admit.
So much longer.
Right? Yeah. So 75
which means they have
hard.
To stay committed for a long time.
Exactly. 75 hard, that's 75 days. That's about 2.5 months, right? Well, that's a great start, but that's essentially a start. When I had someone, this really changed my perspective. I had a client come in one day and she said to me, I want to look like you. What's it going to take? And she was a young, thin girl. And I wanted to be like, well, darling, I started lifting at 15 and I'm about 30 now. So you're about 15 years away, right? And that's not really what anybody wants to hear. But all of that to say, don't be afraid to commit to a year to something.
Yes.
It really could take that long to see that little change that you want. And it doesn't mean that it's not worth not starting. It definitely means it's worth starting. But give yourself time and consistency. And that's what I do see when people fail, they just hop to the next program.
Right.
They think, oh, that trainer didn't know what they were doing, so I'm just going to do the next thing. I'm going to go to this class. Or they meet, one person with their ideal body. Well, that person, does X, Y, and Z. So they're going to copy and paste their plan. Well, that may or may not work for you. So I think just going in with the patience, and that's why I started this podcast saying, change your mind frame. This is a lifelong journey you're about to embark on as far as the fitness thing goes. It's not just a before and after picture, a start time and an end time.
Like I've had people come to me and be like, oh, I want, they bring a picture. I want my butt to look like this, right?
Yes.
And I'm like, you're looking at 3 years. If you want to get a booty like that, it's going to take a really long time. And I was researching the other day about, for me, to gain some extra muscle mass, it's like, because we've been doing this, working out, and we are already on that health and wellness path, it can take me 10 to 20 months to gain 10 pounds of muscle.
Yeah.
Which is wild, because I could gain 10 pounds of fat in a month if I wanted to.
Well, probably not. But
well, no, it may 3 months, probably.
Yeah, no, but that is another thing. People, I think they don't really actually understand. And I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm some doctor with some crazy PhD where I understand completely everything, but how long cell turnover takes and how long it takes to put on muscle and how long it takes to lose fat. So I'll have people come in and be like, I know I can lose 5 pounds of fat a week. I'm like, honey,
no.
A safe rate to do this where I know you're not starving yourself would be about 1 to 2 pounds a week. That's much more realistic and more leaning on the 1 pound per week. So with that, if you've got 50 pounds to lose, again, you're looking at a year-long journey. That doesn't make it not worth it. It just makes it mean that you need to stay consistent. You need to commit to your goals.
Right.
And with putting on muscle, it's something close to, 1 to 2 pounds a month. So that is going to be so worth it in the end, but you have to decide you're in it for the long run.
Right. So we started the episode with talking about how health and wellness is going to flex your real muscles, but also flex your confidence muscles. How do you feel that you have expanded and flexed your confidence muscles now that you are a health and wellness, sweat-obsessed fitness guru?
Yes.
How do you feel like it's affected your life and changed you?
So the immediate answer is that when you work out, you release endorphins, you get some good blood flow. There's nutrients that are being delivered to every single very little tiny cell all in your body. So automatically it's a mood booster, and that's enough of a confidence booster in itself, right? Second of all is, like I was saying, when you do finally achieve something, how good that feels and how much it can really impact your confidence. So for me, I want to say like 10 years ago, I made the goal that I wanted to be able to do chin-ups. Josh, I kid you not, it probably took me 4 or 5 years to get my first chin-up.
Wow.
So that's really crazy because I remember being so down on myself. Like, I wish I was just able to do this. And now that I finally was able to get my first one, it was such a moment of wow. Like every single little workout I put in for the last 4 years, like this is the payout. Like finally it's here, right? And then now that I've gotten one, it's been actually really hard to get multiple more. So I can do 4 now, but I will tell you 2 years ago, my goal was to be able to get up to 10. So still, even as a professional, I had created some of these unrealistic expectations of how fast I can achieve something. Not a bad thing. I mean, it's ambitious. I know I'm going to be working out the rest of my life about 4 times a week, right? So that's my personal goal. So I'm just going to keep chipping away at it. It's not something to give up on just because you didn't get it as quickly as you thought you would. But when you do achieve something like that, there's nothing else like it. Because like what I said, no one else can do it for me.
Right.
I can't just pay for it.
Can't pay for a chin-up.
No, I can't pay for a chin-up. I can't inherit it. Like, just because, like, mommy and daddy can do chin-ups maybe, like, doesn't mean I could do a chin-up, right? So there is such an extreme confidence build from being able to achieve something. And I do recognize in adulthood, unless you're super, like, actively going after awards and things like that, acclimates, you may not be getting these types of fulfillments that will boost your confidence anymore, right? Like, we go to work, we do a great job. Our clients love us. They give us a pat on the back, maybe a Christmas gift, and it kind of feels like, oh yeah, I achieved something with them. Like I'm
Mhm.
really helping them, right? But there's not always a sense of accomplishment, even in your work. There can be, but it's not an automatic thing, right? So within our fitness, being able to achieve something, a goal you've set up for yourself, doing 10 perfect push-ups, being able to do a sit-up, being able to get a little bit more limber and touch your toes, right? These are all measurable things that once you do accomplish it, you're going to feel so good about
Right.
yourself.
Yeah. I love that. I feel like my confidence story is so different because it is and it isn't, because I feel like, you know how when you go through history with models and
Yeah.
whatever the models' bodies look like is how women want to look.
Yeah.
There was a time in the 90s when they were like flat chested, very skinny, and then
Mhm.
the Kardashians came and it was curvy and everyone wanted a big booty.
Yes.
And it's very similar in the gay community. I
Yeah.
remember probably when I was in my 20s, it was like everyone was like a twink, you know, just a skinny, like normal person who doesn't
Yeah.
lift weights.
Yeah.
And that was like kind of it, like maybe a little bit of tone. And then it gradually became like those Abercrombie boys who are fit, not like super, super jacked,
Yeah.
like in my opinion anyway, but they're fit. They got
Lean
like
and
6
muscle
packs,
and
yes,
yeah.
lean and muscular. And then now it's like there's this obsession with just like having a beard, having tattoos, being super jacked,
Mhm.
and just like those really butch, well, they portray themselves as very butch, and then you meet them in person and you're like, what's that saying? Like a purse falls out of their mouth or whatever. I actually hate when people say that, but that's how I can kind of relay the message. And so it's like, for me anyway, I feel like I was always trying to keep up with
Yeah.
whatever the trend was. I fit in really great when it was twinks because I was a skinny little short boy,
Yeah.
but I still never felt great about myself.
Yeah.
And in starting this fitness journey, like I said, finding those little moments where you're achieving something
Mhm.
and realizing I'm never going to be that big, wide, super butch, tatted up with a beard. I could grow a beard, but I think I would look ridiculous. But it's hard with those stereotypes. It really
Yeah.
becomes like,
The trends.
yeah, difficult. And then you go on the dating profiles and people will put what body type they're looking for, you know?
Oh, wow.
And
Okay.
it's challenging because then it will be like, you know, people will say like mask for mask or only into muscle, or some people will have twinks or femme. And it's like, what box do I fit into? Because I'm not super
Yeah.
muscular. I'm not a twink anymore. And so that whole thing was really hard and confusing for me. But really committing to a plan and committing to a diet that I feel like is sustainable. I still have treats.
Yeah.
I might have pizza later, and there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that.
Probably me too.
I have eaten a little too many pizzas in the last because I have been running around a lot. But I think that I found something, and it makes me feel good and confident because it's something I can follow. It's something
Mhm.
I can measure. It's something that I can look back at, and you know, I take my progress pictures. I used to
Yeah.
do the body scans, and I'll do those maybe once every like 6 months. And those small changes are what helped me feel confident about
Yeah.
myself, which then I can look in the mirror and be like, great, you look good. You're getting there.
Yeah.
It takes a long time. But then when I now go on dates, I'm not worried about, is this person going to think I'm too skinny?
Yeah.
Or is this person going to want me to be taller? Because I'll never be taller. But I don't worry about that as much anymore because I'm in a place where I can look at myself physically.
Yeah.
I have a lot to work on mentally
Yeah.
and
Yeah, we all
emotionally.
do.
But physically, I'm like, you're good. You're like doing good. You're making
Yeah.
progress, because a year ago, maybe like a year, not even a year and a half, a little over a year ago is when I really hunkered down.
Okay.
When I did my little bulk, and I made that plan. And I always tell my friends that are thinking about starting something, you said you wanted to start this a year ago. Imagine where you would be now,
If you
a year
did.
later, if you started. So if I
Yeah.
hadn't had started that a year ago, I wouldn't be where I am right now. And a year goes by so incredibly quick. And
It
it's so
does.
easy even to be like, oh, I should have started that last month. Like some
Yeah.
people start their New Year's resolutions on the 1st of
Yeah.
January. There's times when I'm like, oh shit, I didn't start mine. Let me start it on February 1st. Why does
Yeah.
it have to be January 1st?
It doesn't,
You
yeah.
can start this
Anytime.
at any time. Anytime you feel inspired, when you feel ready. You know, if you are going through a breakup or a hard time, like mourn that, go through it, eat the shit food, do what you got to do, and then pick yourself up and be like, okay, I'm going to come up with a plan. It might be group fitness to get you going to
Yeah.
start. It might be a personal trainer. It might be going for walks, like you said.
Yeah.
It might be tracking those feet, which I only done 6,200 steps today. So
It's okay,
I
there's
got
still
I got a
time.
little over 1,000 more to do.
Yeah.
But it's just about beginning, I think.
It's
Is
about
the big moral
beginning.
of the story is just starting.
And it's about like being the best you can be, right? Like it's
not the best that someone else is.
Yeah, it's not in everyone's playbook. So let's just run through a quick example. So like say there's someone in the gay community who has a high power tech job, right? So they're working all hours of the day. They manage a team of 100 people, right? That might not be super realistic that that's the person who's going to spend 5 days a week in the gym for an hour each and then do an hour of cardio on his weekend. He's probably pretty exhausted. So making a goal of, okay, I know I'm super busy and I manage all these people and I live a fast-paced life. I travel for work, all this stuff. Maybe I can get in the gym twice a week. And if I could do twice a week for this entire year, that's going to be 104 more workouts than I would have done had I never started. Exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
And I have a client who he is actually a tech engineer and he is a family man. He's got 2 kids and he works out once a week with me. And his wife makes fun of him because she's quite the fitness gal. She's working out all the time. She's like, I can't believe he gets away with just 1 hour a week. And he actually does look great. And I've seen his muscle tone and I'm sure he naturally also has a great metabolism and everything. So I'm not trying to give myself the biggest pat on the back, but I will tell you, when she was making fun of him, I said, listen, that's 52 more workouts he would have not have gotten to had he not signed up to do training.
That. I've never thought about that before.
Yeah. And so another thing I want to help us with the mindset shift is think about on average for the month, for the year, for the week, right? So maybe 1 week you only hit 2 of your workouts. Well, that's okay. Yeah, technically that'd be like a 50% on that week for your fitness. But look at the month. Did you hit it the other 3 weeks? And then you just had that 1 week where you kind of fell off on 2 workouts. Maybe you traveled, maybe you had family in town, who knows, right? That's not that bad to miss 2 out of 16, right? And then if you look at the year, like, you could just kind of keep zooming out. So you just stay consistent on all of the times that you can control your controllables and allow your life to have some variability. It's okay to not get 100% on every test you take. You know what I mean?
That's hard.
Yeah.
That's hard for me too. I'm very hard on myself when I don't get my workouts in.
Yeah.
But I'm going to start thinking about that. I think about that a lot with food when I'm like, oh, this bag of jelly beans that I was eating the other day is 900 calories. I ate the whole bag.
Yeah, okay? It's okay.
Guess what? I ate another bag the next day.
Yeah.
And the week before, I also had a bag. So I was like, whatever that math is, 900 times 3. I don't know how I ever graduated high school because I can't do that math that quick.
It's okay.
But what is that? 2,600 calories.
2,700.
Oh, shit.
That's okay.
Whatever it is. Whatever it is.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
That for some people is an entire day of their calories.
Yeah.
And imagine you do that every week. Imagine you eat those 3 bags of jelly beans. You're adding an extra day of calories to your week. 4 extra days a month times whatever however many weeks in the year, 52 weeks. So I do think of that, but I've never thought about it with my workouts.
Yeah. So that's a good way to think about it because even if first of all, don't be afraid to miss workouts because like I said, it's going to take 3 months of literally doing nothing. Like I'm talking, you had
3
a surgery.
Weeks, right?
Yeah, 3 weeks. Did I say months?
You did.
A week. Okay.
I wish it was months.
Yeah, that'd be crazy. But yeah, you like literally would have to be sitting around doing nothing to completely start deteriorating after 3 weeks. So 1 missed workout really isn't that big of a deal. Yeah. What I think happens is super high achieving people like yourself get down on themselves because you probably had the time. Maybe you slept in an extra hour one of the days, right? But also be easy on yourself because maybe that's what you needed. Maybe your body craved that sugar because you were really tired. Maybe you didn't get that good of sleep. Maybe that candy did bring you joy. And there's something also to be said about
it.
It always brings me joy too. And funny enough, like I love sour candy. So for me, it's like sour gummy worms or like sour gummy bears.
Yeah.
And quite honestly, I don't say this in the sense of like a reckless idea of just give in to your cravings, but give in to your cravings within reason. Reward yourself with that and move on. Start fresh again. Don't be down on yourself because yesterday you ate candy. Candy is so fun and it's meant to be enjoyed. Dessert is meant to be enjoyed. Maybe if you've got these goals, it's not within your goals to have it every day. But again, think about that average. Could you probably estimate out of 365 days a year, how many days you ate candy last year?
Probably more than I'd like to admit.
Probably more than you'd like to admit. Yes. But maybe like, I don't know, like if you did it once a week, twice a week.
I'd probably say twice a week.
Twice a week.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's 100
I
days.
could have done it 7 days a week, and that would have been a hell of a lot worse.
And so, you just kind of take inventory of where you're at and then see where you want to go. If you're fine with that, if you're like, I love the way that my body looks, I love indulging in the candy, I love this, or that, like, great, that's okay. Like, then what you're doing is working. It's totally fine. However, if you're like, wow, another year went by and I still didn't take off any of those 50 pounds extra that I have to lose, well, then maybe that candy doesn't make your life better.
Right.
So there's a tipping scale.
Yeah. I love that. I love rewarding myself with
Me
treats.
too.
I usually pick like a day. Like I'll do like a Friday or a Saturday, and I'll try to be as good as I can throughout the week. Obviously, there's times when that doesn't happen.
Yeah, and that's okay.
Yeah. But I like the idea of picking like a day
Yeah.
and trying to stick to it. Again, if you don't, you don't.
Yeah.
Not a big deal. But then it's like you have something to look forward to. I'm going to work my butt off Monday through Friday. Friday night, I'm going to order Domino's.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You can negotiate with yourself. I do that often. So there might be a day where I'm like, I really just don't feel like doing my run today. However, if the next time I did my run, maybe I did a half a mile extra, and then, the next run I did another half a mile extra. That way I'm kind of making up for that lost run along the time. Yeah. You can negotiate with yourself. Maybe you needed that candy that day. Maybe you needed that extra rest of sleep. It's okay.
I always need the candy, and I always need extra sleep.
I know, right?
Okay, I like to do little statistics every episode, just because I think it kind of, although I'm not a numbers person, it helps me just make sense of a lot of things. And sometimes there are things I didn't even know. Listeners might not know. You probably know all of these. But 80% of American adults do not get enough exercise, even though just 150 minutes of moderate activity per week can significantly reduce disease risk. So 80% of everybody here in this country is basically not exercising. It's a very small percentage of people that are moving, like you said. It's interesting. Yesterday I did one, and it was 50% of Americans are single. So that gave me hope.
Oh, there you go.
So that's good to know.
There's a lot of fish in the sea, in the sea that we're in right now.
Aren't there a lot?
Yeah. This
is my problem. Lack of sleep, I didn't know this, increases your cravings for junk food by 45%. How did I not know that?
Well, you know why? I kind of said it earlier. If you're not getting enough rest at night, your body's going to be looking for energy. Yeah. And when you really dive into, and I'm no nutrition quote expert, I know a lot about nutrition. I love it, but I am not going to credit myself as an expert. But what I can tell you is what hits our body the quickest and gives us the highest glucose spike? Sugar. Yeah. So when you're tired and you're looking for energy, that's why we crave things like potato chips and candy and carb-heavy foods, because your body is looking for a burst of energy. It's trying to wake you up. So instead of finding a million different ways to combat that, deep dive into your sleep. Go to bed earlier. Try to sleep in an extra hour.
Yeah. So, okay, maybe you can help me with this then, because when I do, I'll have a little bit of candy or whatever. I love eating in bed. I love putting my movie on my projector and eating in bed. Yeah. Not everyone's cup of tea. A lot of people actually find that really gross, don't they?
I don't think it's gross, but it's not a healthy habit to get into because let me tell you, from a psychology's perspective, you are conditioning yourself to every time you go to bed, you're now hungry.
I need a snack.
Every time you lay down and you turn your TV on, your hunger starts to go.
100%. I've always been that way. Exactly. Because me and my family, we used to do a lot of movie nights and we always had a little snack, or even if we were watching a TV show together, we would always have a little bowl of chips or some sort of snack. Yeah. And I've always been that way.
Yeah. So you've been conditioned for a while.
Yeah. I've never really thought of it as a bad habit. This is a bad habit though. I will eat, again, the jelly beans the other night. I'll have some of them. I will usually put it in a little bowl so I don't eat the whole bag. Yeah. However, I will wake up at 3 a.m. I'll just be so awake and I'll be I'm craving more jelly beans. Yeah. And I will go into my kitchen and eat a handful of jelly beans. And there are times when I do that 4 times throughout the night. I wake up and I'm just craving more sugar. Yeah. It's just interesting. Is it just because sugar is addicting? Is it just because they're so yummy? Addicting. What's happening? Why can't I stay asleep?
As not a doctor, I can't actually diagnose you with anything.
Maybe I need to get a doctor.
But it could just be as simple, Josh, as when you're in bed or when you're trying to settle down for the night, your habit is to eat.
Yeah. And it's just a habit I've created.
Yeah, it's a habit you've created. So that is something I actually, with my fiance, it's not that we fight about it, but we'll sit down with dinner, and we have a really small house in California. Josh is at it right now.
Oh, I'm sorry. I live in a 1-bedroom. This is not a small house.
Okay, well, true. But we don't have a proper kitchen with a kitchen table where we eat. So we are in our living room recording this podcast right now, and this is where we normally eat dinner.
Mhm.
So we're sitting on the couch in front of the coffee table, essentially eating dinner. And Sam is just like you. He was used to growing up watching TV while they ate dinner, or at least that is what he reports to me. I wasn't
Mhm.
there. My family, maybe they did, maybe the TV was on, but I was never a TV person, so I never paid attention to it. But when I learned about how detrimental that conditioning can be of having the TV on while you're eating, first of all, you're not practicing mindful eating. You might be shoveling into your mouth super, super fast because you're actually paying attention to what you're watching, not what you're consuming.
Mhm.
So eating too fast is going to make you feel a little bit more hungry because our hunger doesn't actually get satiated until about 20 minutes after eating. And so that's why sometimes like on holidays, you eat, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I just bombed my stomach, right? Because it doesn't hit you until a little bit longer. So delaying the rate that you're eating can actually make you more in tune with your body and recognize like I did eat the proper amount rather than just kind of shoveling it into your mouth, mindlessly eating, right? Also, creating the positive reinforcement with your food of like, this food is here to help me achieve my goals, build my muscles, help cell by cell, brick by brick, build everything that I need to in my body, build a healthy immune system even. It's not always all about muscle and gains, right? But just recognizing and appreciating the food you're eating is going to have a much better health gain on your body than when you're eating stressed out and out of control. So for someone like yourself, Josh, who loves murder, crime, scary movie documentaries,
Me?
Yeah. Those raise your heart rate. They
Oh
get
my
your
God,
cortisol going, right?
Yeah.
So it's not really that great to eat when you're in a super stressed out state. And I say this for people who think that like eating in the car is proper. Same thing. You should not be doing those things.
Right.
When you sit down and eat, that should be your only job during that time.
Interesting. I don't really get stressed out during true crime docs, so maybe that's the problem. I actually find them quite relaxing. No, not lately though. I've actually noticed that they've made me like I feel like a normal person watching them. Like I've been getting jumpy and scared. So maybe
you're so desensitized.
A switch flip. I love it. You have so much knowledge.
Oh.
This one is depresso. Sitting for more than 6 hours a day increases your risk of dying early by 19%.
Yeah.
And almost everyone, with the exception of people that probably work in the health and wellness industry, sit on their butts for more than 6 hours a day at work.
So this one's super interesting. I actually had a really great conversation about that this week. So why is it that we're sitting so much? Well, our lives have been made so much easier with machinery. So even think about someone who like 50, let's call it 50 years ago. 50 years ago, if you were to do laundry and chores or wash the dishes, like you would have to have done a lot more of that laborious activity, maybe even more than 50 years. I don't really know the date that all these machines kind of came into play, but just play with me here, okay?
We're going with 50.
We're going with it. Okay. So you had to put in so much more exerted effort to be able to just live your regular life. Well, now all of our machines do it for us. A lot of people even contract out their laborious work, right? Like I even have cleaners who come to the house once a week because I would rather work an extra hour, make the money I need to make to pay someone to do the things that I don't want to do.
Right.
And so I'm lucky enough to have a job where I am on my feet. I'm demoing exercises. I'm walking around a lot, so I am very active with my job, but a lot of these jobs are now desk and computer jobs. So now in your regular life, you're not even doing those laborious activities. Like most of the people I know don't landscape their own yards anymore. Right. Well, I grew up with parents who their weekends were spent landscaping, painting, fixing a house, right? And that's not everyone does that. So if you're missing out on all the natural activity from living your life and your job forces you to be in meetings for hours, sit on the phone, sit at your desk, sit at your computer, you're just not naturally getting all of that activity. So one thing that you can do to combat that, which I think the Apple Watches have done a great job, is they remind you like, hey, stand up.
To stand.
Yeah, stand. And maybe even when you get that little zing on your wrist, maybe you just do 10 squats really quick, just get some blood flow. You loosen up your hips. Something that I have learned from being with Sam is he is a chiropractor. And so I learn a lot of these little health tidbits from him and all of his knowledge. So you have a spinal fluid that goes all the way up and down your nervous system twice per day. Now, when you are in a seated position, you're cutting off that fluid from being able to fully flow the way that it's intended to. So if you're not getting that circulation twice a day that it is supposed to be getting, you're doing your body a disservice.
Right.
And that's where some of, one of the biggest pain points people have across the board is low back pain. And this is why people get prescribed painkillers. Well, if they were just to stand up and do a few stretches and a couple squats here and there, their back probably wouldn't hurt as much, because what you're doing when you're sitting is you're shortening and stiffening your hip flexors. Well, the more that those hip flexors are pulled in really tight, they're going to reach for surrounding muscle groups, and that's your low back,
Right.
which is being now stretched to make up the difference for your hips being so shortened. So just standing alone probably would really help people's longevity.
All right, the last little, what is this? What were we going through? The
Like
little
facts,
stats,
yeah.
little facts. Well, there's two. This one I just love. 40 calories are burnt if you laugh for 15 minutes, and that's why I love laughing.
I love that.
I just live for laughing.
I
love
love
laughing.
that.
And the average person checks their phone 96 times a day.
Ugh, I am so guilty of that.
Are you? I feel like
think
you're
so.
pretty good about unplugging, at least.
I am on the weekends
we've
for
talked
sure. I mean, I do spend time on my phone, but like you'll see, I have a ton of unread messages right now just because I'm like, I just don't have the capacity to give right now. And thankfully, I also think because of our jobs, we are doing so much one-to-one interacting with someone who really is paying for all of our time and attention.
Yeah, so we can't just be on our
No,
phones.
it's so rude to be on your phone. So I don't think that that's so much an issue during the daytime, but I definitely find myself spending too much time like checking my social media. And something else I recently learned from a neurologist is that people usually have this routine they do on their phone. So when you're just bored or you don't know what else to do, or maybe you are even nervous or anxious, you check your phone. And for me, I go to Instagram, check my likes, check my messages, nothing there because I don't really post that much, right? Then I'm like, oh, I better check my email. So I run to my email, which I barely ever respond to people on my email. So I'm like, check the email. After the email, oh, let's see what's going on Facebook, right? It's like this checklist. Like you go down the list and it's like, do I need to check that multiple times a day? Probably not. Like maybe a couple times would be good. But yeah, I think that we spend a lot of time on our screen, a lot of mindless energy. And I honestly would rather even see people go to their messages and like, think about a relative or a loved one or a college friend that they haven't talked to in a while and send that person a message. You don't need to be just checking all of these apps constantly, opening your phone all day long.
I love that. Yeah. I put my phone on Do Not Disturb all the time.
Yeah.
It's pretty much on it
You
all day
have
long.
to,
And
yeah.
I will only see something if I actively open my actual phone. And so my watch doesn't go off. I remember you told me when I was asking about Apple Watches that they're such a distraction.
Yeah.
And they really are, which is why I have it on Do Not Disturb. And every
Disturb.
time I don't have it on that, I'm like, oh, I'm getting a notification. And I think of you because
It drove me
just
crazy.
Yeah, it just distracts you from everything.
You can't not look.
That's going on.
You know
so
what I
just
mean?
have everything silenced.
Yeah.
Yes. So I think these dogs need love. So in closing, in wrapping this up, pretty much take it slow.
Yes.
Find something that you love.
Yes.
Find what's going to motivate you.
Yes.
And don't be so hard on yourself.
Absolutely. I agree 100% with all of those things. And I think one thing to stress here is that fitness should not be what's stressing us out. Fitness should be our outlet. So if you're stressed out about sticking to this plan, or you failed last week, or you feel like you need to start over, that's super counterproductive. So again, take the big zoom out. Zoom out from your whole life, right? So we're in our 30s now. We're going to live close to 100, especially us, because we really care about our health and longevity.
Mm-hmm.
So if you mess up a couple weeks right now, that is nothing in the long, grand scheme of things. So you just try to make the best decisions for every moment that you're in.
Yeah. And if you want to live to 100 and you're not doing anything right now, you should probably start.
It's a great time to start.
It is. There's no better time than now.
That's right.
To get your ass off the couch. The podcast is over. Figure your shit out.
That's right. Go for a walk. You should have been walking while you were listening
I'm
to
gonna
this
go
podcast.
walk my dog. Actually, yes. We should have started it with that.
Yeah.
Start your walk now.
Oh, I love it. Well, you can add that to the intro.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. I feel like we're gonna need to revisit a lot of these things. And there's a lot of things you talked about that I'm like, we could do a whole thing about your perspective and all the wonderful things that you know. So I'm not just always talking about how men use me as a friggin' doormat. Would be wonderful. But thank you for being here. I so appreciate you. And I can't wait till next time.
Me too. Talk to you guys later.
Bye. again for listening to this episode of Hot Air. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram at _hotairpod. And I would love it if you would rate the episode 5 stars because leave a review. Just 1 word, 2 words, 3 words, a paragraph, an essay, whatever floats your boat. The more interactions we get going in the podcast apps, the higher my podcast will appear on the list of a gazillion podcasts, which means more views, which means more episodes. And that's all I got for you. So until next time, I will talk to you guys later.